Unlocking Inner Magic. This is an interview with best-selling children's fantasy author Angela Legh. And in this captivating interview, we sit down with her, renowned author of the Bella Santini Chronicles, best-selling children's fantasy novels. But instead of discussing her latest book, we delve into Angela's philosophy on inner magic. According to her, every individual is made of magic, and it all comes down to cultivating the 7 pillars of inner magic: presence, gratitude, self love, self trust, self awareness, playfulness, and curiosity. Angela shares how embracing these qualities can make our lives truly magical. She also emphasizes how every child is unique and special, with their own sets of gifts and challenges that shape them into who they are meant to be. Join us on a journey of self discovery as we explore the transformative power of unlocking our inner magic. Remember, life is not a destination, it's a journey, and let's make it magical together. Welcome to the Wellness Driven Life Show, where you're about to go on a wellness driven ride. I'm excited to introduce our guest today. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Angela Legh is best known as the author of her children's fantasy book series, the Bella Santini Chronicles, which gives children and their parents tools and techniques for emotional balance. For over 50 years, Angela has experienced abuse, bullying, and belittlement, and through that exposure, she developed emotional management methods. Angela has been featured in USA Today. She is a columnist for the Los Angeles Tribune newspaper and magazine, and has countless other media exposures. She's an international best-selling author with 8 published books. Angela is a conscious parenting consultant who shared the stage with Les Brown, Dr. John D. Martini, Bernardo Moya, Michael Beckwith, Joe Vitale, Allison Larson, Mo Rock, David Fagan, and many others. Angela has done everything from speaking to C-suite level entrepreneurs about emotional intelligence to creating engaging children's videos. When Angela isn't writing children's stories, she can be found hiking in the beautiful wilderness of Teos, New Mexico. I am so pleased to welcome her. Please help me welcome Angela Legh.
Hello. It's so nice to be here. And I just love that we're going to be talking about inner magic, because this is something that truly, it's where my heart is. So it's exciting.
I am so pleased to have you here on the Wellness Driven Life Show, Angela. And you do have some incredible things to give to the world. You are, through various means, vehicles, through your books and your coaching and your leading. Even in your books, you guide and direct parents to help have the best tools possible in their tool belt for raising their beautiful children. And I think that not only doing that for others, it really helps us manage ourselves.
Oh, yes. All of the things that are in my books are things that I needed to learn, to really embrace. And I remember, actually, as I go, because every book, it's a process to write. I would go through, like, the last couple of weeks of writing, And I would be like, "Oh my god, where did that come from? Did I write that?"
Wow.
Yeah.
So, that being said, and it's kind of funny we're jumping right into this, but writing is such a powerful tool and
Mhm.
technique for us. And like you said, all of the things that we teach, those are things that we really need to work on so much
Mhm.
ourselves. And
Yeah.
so it's this beautiful balance and give and take, an exchange of energy that we're able to hone into when we do that. And once, what is the term? Once taught, twice learned, right?
Yes, it's
And
so true.
yeah, and you say that when you've gone back and you read some of your writing, you're like, "Oh my gosh, did I really say that?" Do you suggest to go back and reread your writing or maybe not?
Well, I think, so a lot of the knowledge that is in those books is actually channeled from the angelic realm. And so, I know this because I have deep connections with the angelic realm. So when I would reread some of the stuff that I wrote, it wasn't like I was surprised that I wrote it. Really, I knew that it was, this deep understanding of the human condition that was coming from angels. And
Mm.
so for me, it was like, oh, yeah, I need to pay attention to that a little bit more in my own life.
Yeah. Well, I love that you said that. I didn't know that, by the way, but
Uh,
it makes me think. Last week we had a conversation with Neil Donald Walsh,
mhm.
and yes, if you're familiar with his work, is he too? But it's conversations with God. And so, but I recall him making a comment that he doesn't go back and reread his work, that he's had got, like you're a prolific writer. You've got a lot out there that is already published. And I think Neil is on his 42nd book with two of them
Wow.
not being published yet. But that is a lot of writing. And like you said, it takes time, it's extensive.
Yeah, it's a process for sure. So, I just created a post for Instagram that talks about the writing process because when you think you write the end, that it's all said and done, but that's really the beginning of the
Mhm.
journey of being an author
Oh, I
because
like that.
you have to have the story in order to be an author, but there's so much. There's illustrations, there's editing, there's re-editing, there's typesetting, there are all these different layers that people don't realize are part of the process of putting out a fiction book. And it's like, wow, I had no idea what I was getting into when I started writing.
Well, I want to go to the area of what got you into writing? What drew you to it?
Mm,
But first, maybe would you like to give us a little bit of background of where you came from? You said that you've
mhm.
experienced a lot of emotional turmoil, of abuse during your life, during your childhood. If you're open to sharing, I would love to hear more about where you came from, where you stemmed from.
I certainly am open to sharing that. It's kind of like the whole reason why I do my books. So, I was born in 1964 in San Francisco, and we lived in the Haight-Ashbury district. So if you can imagine being a youngster with a window out onto Golden Gate Park in 1967, the Summer of Love happened right there in front of me. And it's not so much about the drugs or the, you know, debauchery that may have gone on at that time. What it was about is this energy of choosing love over war.
Mhm.
And I got to absorb a lot of those energies by being physically there. Um,
Angela, can I stop you just for a
of
minute?
course.
Because I wanna soak that in, uh, because it's not too often that people think about that, where we have this perspective of the energies around us and the exchange of energies and
Mhm.
whether they're positive or negative, and the location and the air during the times,
Yeah.
and so this is a very pivotal time in our American
Yes,
history
it
and
was.
even world history. So you're absolutely right. Thank you so much for bringing up that perspective. I really like that you have, thought about that and
It
brought it to
doesn't.
light.
Yeah, it's like, wow, what a place to incarnate, It's it's like, okay, this is, because my childhood memories were darkness and light, and the light was my mom and her playing the Mamas and the Papas on the stereo, and
Yeah.
the love that was so vibrant in the air. The darkness was my father, who had been abused as a child, and he grew up with feelings of that he's not good enough and that
Mm,
he wasn't worthy.
yeah.
And he projected his self hatred onto his children and attacked us in a way that no parent really should. So, um, what I learned from my interactions with my father was that rage is something that no one should have to experience, and that I was worthless. So
Mm,
when we um, have these kind of energies that are underlying our youth, then we grow up and we make decisions based on those feelings and that information. So I ended up marrying a man who was also abused as a child,
yeah.
and yet his experience was that rage and anger got you what you wanted. It got you respect, and it got you won the argument if you were the
Mhm.
loudest. So my rejection of rage caused me to be in judgment of anyone who chose rage. I
Ah,
couldn't understand it. Why would anyone want to be that way? And so I totally repressed my own anger. But in my after my awakening and in my self-discovery, I read a book by Alice Miller, and it's called The Body Never Lies.
mm,
She um, she traced children who had been abused into their adulthood, and what she discovered is that repressed emotions either turn inward, where you self-harm,
mm,
you make self-defeating behaviors, you hate yourself,
yeah,
or they turn outward and they're attacking others. And so the short of the long story is that once I got away from the marriage, I started writing these stories, not with the intention of teaching emotional intelligence, but it just somehow got embedded into it.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that very powerful story that you have. And it is emotional, and we all have those aspects throughout our lives. And it's so interesting how, like you read in that book, how we show up based on our experiences. And as
Yeah.
children, we don't know how to process. And so that's absolutely, it's either inward where we don't care for ourselves, or outward like your father and your ex-husband, where
Mhm.
they that's the only way they know how to express all of the
Yes.
things, because they don't know how to process. Now, you also mentioned that there was so much light and dark. You saw the light of your mother and the dark of your father.
Yeah.
And I would love to know your opinion on this, because it's my belief that we kind of have to have those in order for us to understand the light and be grateful for it. We have to understand the darkness.
It's so true. Plus, we are male and female, and with no designation of male or female, light and dark. So we all have our shadows. And when we are in resistance to our shadow, we are denying a part of ourselves.
Oh.
And so having this really illustrated so well in front of me as a child showed me that this this is part of the whole. And we need to be whole. We need to embrace our shadows in order to truly ascend and be whole.
So that said, Angela, you spoke that you did not show anger, and
Yeah.
you repressed that. When was it when you realized that that wasn't the best thing, and how did you navigate that? Where did you go somewhere and scream and shout, or
Oh,
did
many a
you
time. Yeah.
did you find things to be angry about? Like, how did you tap into that piece of you that you were harboring within you for so long?
It was, a long process. First, I went to my friend, she was an energy healer, and she helped me to tap into some of those energies that had been long held inside of me. Um, that was really painful because she would be, like, moving energy and telling me, "Just feel that, just feel it, keep feeling it, keep feeling it, keep feeling it," and it was so the depth of pain was
Hmm.
just so overwhelming. I was like, "I don't want to feel it." And so I have so much empathy for people who don't want to feel,
Mm.
because that's a life lesson that many of us were handed by people who didn't know how to feel. So, we think about our parents telling us, there, don't cry. The message that underlies that is that your emotions should be held in.
Mm.
Don't express those emotions.
Yeah.
Now, the intent of the mother is not to say that, but that is the message that
The
comes out.
programming, I think,
Yeah.
we that those societal standards, or the things, the language that has been pushed down generation after generation after generation.
Yeah. There's so much to generational trauma that
Yeah.
that could be a whole show in and of itself.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack, but I think the journey starts individually. I mean, it has to. That's how we really change the world. It's with one person at a time, each of us
And
learning and
that's
knowing.
yeah, it's, this is why being self-aware is really high on the list of what you need to create a magical life. Because when you're aware of your emotional triggers, that's the first step in healing those emotional triggers.
Yeah.
And understanding that that repressed emotion is popping out
Yeah.
when you're triggered. And so you when you're pointing your finger at someone else and saying, "They did that to me, and they made me feel this way," then you are in victim energy because you're giving all the power to that other person.
Hmm.
So
That's pretty powerful.
it is.
Yep.
And yeah,
Profound.
this was a understanding that came to me a few months after I left, because when I left the marriage, I was like, "Oh my god, you gotta hear what he did to me." And I was
Yeah.
so eager to be, I guess, be understood as having experienced all that stuff. But what I understand now is I was very much in victim energy because I was blaming him.
Yeah.
I wasn't taking any responsibility.
Accountability, yeah.
And that is, I should make that the eighth key. 'Cause it
Well,
is.
that's beautiful, and the beautiful thing is you can probably just keep adding on. As you write, you're already in a chronicle, in a series, and it can
Yeah.
continue on, and it sounds to me so much, Angela, that you are creating these beautiful tips and ideas based on your own personal healing journey.
Yeah.
So you talked about the first step was really becoming aware of, and we've been discussing that, but and how your friend was moving energy within you and having you really feel those
Oh,
emotions. But that is part of that awareness. You're
it's
becoming
very
aware.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the higher people go in their consciousness, the more they realize that their emotions are information,
Mm.
and they are telling you how you feel about the circumstances. There's no delineation between good and bad feelings. They are experiences, and we assign the good and the bad. There are what people call negative feelings that people spend all kinds of effort to avoid.
Yeah.
So, even on a very simple level, they have a stressful day at work, they come home and they pop a beer and sit down. Why did they open that beer? Because they want to shift how they feel.
Yeah. What
It's
is your
evasion.
perception? Oh, sorry, continue.
Oh, it's an evasion.
Yeah.
There's so much effort spent in evading the negative feelings
Yeah.
that people don't realize the painful consequences of doing that.
So I'm going to kind of flip that a little bit.
Mhm.
What is your thoughts, your perception on avoiding something that we may think is negative, right? So let's take a relationship for instance.
Mhm.
And you finally are building some awareness of this isn't okay. This isn't healthy when
Right.
that person has an immense amount of work to do on themselves. And before you go home, you realize I don't need to be there and I shouldn't be there. So that is a form of avoidance. What would you
Yes.
say the difference is?
So it's interesting because I have been in spiritual circles for a while, and I've seen some people that I value talk about avoiding those narcissistic people or avoiding this, energy vampires. And if we are one, which is ultimately, the truth, we are all one, then why would we want to avoid that shadow part of ourselves? And I'm just letting that sit because
Yeah,
that is a pretty deep
it is. It
insight.
is,
Yeah,
and if you wanna emphasize that a little bit more, you may, but it is deep,
because
Angela.
often the things that we resist are the parts of ourselves that we don't want to face. And so my resistance of my former husband, he expressed rage. I was in resistance to his rage because I didn't want to face my own anger.
Yeah.
And so when we try and cut someone out of our life, and let me preface this by saying sometimes you need to leave a relationship if you are experiencing deep hurt, whether it's emotional or physical. Sometimes you just have to cut off that relationship and get out because you cannot heal yourself when you are constantly receiving blame and pain. So sometimes you have to leave. But when we are just talking in general about humanity, why would we want to cut off the people who are most in need? Because the people who create havoc and wreak in our society are the ones who are hurt, and hurt people hurt people.
Mm, they
So,
do.
yeah,
And where does it stop? Where does it end, right?
right. And our rejection of them creates deeper hurt. And one of the things in the second book of the Bella Santini Chronicles, I think it's the last chapter, there's a discussion between two leaders in the Fey world about how they're going to teach Bella about the way of Fey love. And they talk about, you know, human beings see things in this black and white. And when they're talking about the victim energy, a triangle. So there's victim persecutor, we all know that. But when we add rescuer in there, that's the real victim triangle. Because
Mm,
if we are in any role of that triangle, we are adding to victim energy.
yeah.
And
Oh, well, that's a very
often,
good perspective.
yeah, often in our circumstances, we run through the roles. So
Yeah.
like with my ex-husband, he would scream at me for hours. I was his victim. I would finally reach a point and yell back at him. Now he's my victim and I'm the persecutor. And then the next day I would try and think of ways, oh, maybe we should have done this or maybe we should have done that so we
Mhm.
could avoid this in the future. I was the rescuer.
Yeah, right. Right, of course, and many, many people end up in those situations because they want to rescue, they want to save and be that shining light for others.
And that shining light is the answer because when in the second book they talk about a human seeing a father, let's say in a grocery store, screaming at a young child and maybe even hitting the young child. And our first instinct is to rush in and save that child. But the reality is, unless the authorities come in and take the child away, that child is going to get in the car with the father. And if we intervene, that father is going to be so much madder that he's going to double down on that kid when they get home. So our intervention added to the energy of the situation. And what they talk about in the book is if we send love to the father and to the son, they both have the opportunity to choose love in this situation.
Mm. So, I like what you're saying. So, you're saying when we and I believe we all have this incredible power. We're all energy. And
Mhm.
so you're saying when we come from the heart center and we concentrate on this loving energy towards them, then all it is doing an immense amount of good because they're going to feel
So,
that. We can't see it,
right?
but they feel it and they
Yeah.
know it. It's that internal part of them, that energy that will reach them.
Yeah, absolutely. And the resistance energy that is brought up in the father, if someone tries to stop his abuse, is going to be huge. And so that just it's it kind of goes against the way people think feel about this. And
Oh,
I
Angela, it completely goes against the way that people, but that's why we teach and we learn. I love Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. When
yeah,
I came across his work, he explains the science of it so beautifully, so
yeah,
gracefully, so clearly. And for all of the things that I felt and knew deep down, I didn't know how to explain it. And
Right.
so when I heard what he was saying and the science backing it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. And we have been measuring this for a long time. And it's just
Mhm.
now starting to come to to the surface,
Yeah.
and to begin building this awareness. This is part of why we have the show, right? So we can start
Really.
building this awareness and bringing it and pushing it up to the surface so people know how to heal themselves and heal the world in the big picture. And so no, you can't see it. It's so hard to understand. People don't get it. You don't get it until you really do feel it.
That's such a great insight. And yes, it's true. Um, it's feeling is everything. And
Yeah.
that's why I put self-awareness as one of the keys, because when we when we delve into a story, what grabs us is the feelings and the emotions of the story.
Mhm.
And we can resonate with a character because of the the way they're expressing their feelings, and or maybe not expressing their feelings, because there's many different stories. But it's there's energy that runs all the time. We all have our own energy. And when we allow our energy to work for us, instead of being in resistance to what's happening, we just allow, that is letting our energy work for us. And in the long run, it's going to come out for the good.
Yeah.
So even if you look at my life and you say, in 2017, I lost my very nice house to a wildfire. And yet, that wildfire was the seminal event that caused me to question my life, ask, is this the life I want to be living? Do I want to do this for the rest of my life? And the answer was, oh my God, no. So I left the marriage. I had
Mm.
been in that marriage for 32 years, and I couldn't leave because I didn't want to hurt him.
Mm. Oh, that's so powerful. And I know there's going to be listeners that are hearing that and feeling that. And I have been in situations that I feel like I stayed too long because you don't want to upset the people that it affects.
True. And what I discovered later, what I realized later, was that my staying actually hurt him, because when I stayed, I
Mm.
was continually in judgment of his behavior. And that's energy.
Yeah.
He had to be aware of it. And so my staying hurt him. My leaving was going to hurt him. But at the end, wasn't it his choice to be hurt by that?
Mm. So many good things that you're saying. And yeah, I agree with you. I don't feel that people can actually grow if you continue the same things over and over and over.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're
That's
not
very
doing
powerful.
yourself a benefit, you're not doing them a benefit. And I just want to go back one more time to your description of the father figure and the children or child in the parking lot, and
Mhm.
how when you intervene, it makes things worse. It's just
Yeah.
like putting fuel on the fire,
Yeah,
right?
it
But if
is.
you from far, even at a distance, if you're close up from far away, I mean, they've been able to prove that and measure that. Even people who are across the world from one another can really have an exchange of energy.
Very much.
And so
Yeah.
that's such a huge benefit. I love that you say that because I feel like once people have the understanding that we're these incredibly powerful, energetic beings, the world of difference that they can make.
Can you imagine? These are two of my dreams. One, that every child grows up without emotional triggers because they've learned how to face all emotions. And they don't say these are good or these are bad. They're just a feeling and it will flow. And so that means no drug abuse, no alcoholism, no self-harming, no bulimia, no anorexia, no suicide.
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's one of my huge dreams. And then the other is when a group of people can just shine their light and just sit in their own living room and just say, you know what, I'm going to be a light today. And just allow your light to shine. As those candles start shining, as we see those candle flames, eventually they're going to grow into a bonfire. And then it's going to grow into a beacon of light. And the amount of good that can be done just by shining your light, just by saying, I'm not going to be in resistance to anything. I'm just going to shine my love everywhere.
I love that. That's just exactly what we all need. Those are some big and beautiful, incredible dreams. I love that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We're going to go into our first commercial. And when we got back, I would love to hear, Angela, more about what you hear from the Angelic Realm. Stay tuned.
Bella Grace Skincare. It's more than skincare. It's your shortcut to a more youthful, healthy, and beautiful you. Step 1. Cleanse with the Enzyme Collagen Cleanser. Gently exfoliates and removes dead skin cells. Brightens and evens out skin tones. Repairs damage caused by environmental stressors. Protects skin's barrier function. Use daily for clean, smooth, glowing skin. Experience the Bella Grace Enzyme Collagen Cleanser for a refreshing start and a radiant finish. Step 2. Treat with the Dewy Serum. Deeply hydrates and locks in moisture. Protects from free radical damage. Targets multiple signs of aging. Boosts microcirculation. Revealing a youthful, radiant, dewy complexion. Dewy Serum goes beyond ordinary skincare, leading you to a realm of glowing, rejuvenated beauty. Step 3. Replenish with the Collagen Plumping Moisturizer. Reduces fine lines and wrinkles. Deeply hydrates. Boosts collagen production. Firms and smooths the skin. Experience an intense surge of moisture that leaves your skin feeling supple and soft to the touch. Celebrate your skin and elevate your beauty with Bella Grace Skincare.
You can learn more about Bella Grace in the description below. And Angela, as I was watching that commercial, it dawned on me that the work that you're doing, the work that I love to shout out to the universe, as we begin to evolve as human beings, we will no longer need skincare products and any of that, because we're going to be so evolved that we'll know how to just regenerate that anyway. We'll be so in tune with our emotions, and just like you're teaching children today to really understand those emotions, to feel them, and to just let it flow.
It's so true. Though I did like the name Bella and Grace together, because Grace is really what I try and get people to understand and give themselves as well as to others. And then, of course, Bella is my character. So,
Yeah. It's how funny, how fitting is that?
yeah.
Maybe.
But you're right. As human beings evolve, and this is a time of evolution for human beings.
It is.
Um,
It's a pretty cool time.
it's totally cool and scary at the same time sometimes.
Well, change is hard.
Change is hard.
Yeah.
People, it's interesting because when my house burned down in 2017, which was the catalyst for me to make this change in my life, there were two reactions. And one was the people who would be like, I just want to rebuild my house exactly to what it was. I want to have it on the same lot, and I want my neighborhood to be exactly the way it was. Because they wanted the comfort of what they had. And then there was a smaller group that were like, okay, let me see where else I might live, because they sought the adventure of going to somewhere else.
Yeah, new beginning.
Yeah, a new beginning. There's neither good nor bad to either way of thinking. But if you are someone who is resistant to change, in your resistance, you're causing yourself pain.
So, in that regard, do you feel like living a life of curiosity and adventure and saying yes to things or exploring or doing things that scare you is maybe a great way to, to grow your soul and have fun on the journey?
So soul growth is done through experience, and the soul does not say this is a good experience and that is a bad experience. It's all experience. So from my soul's perspective, my childhood was only an experience. I, the human, on the other hand, was like, that was screwed up, and I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think that when we allow life to unfold, when we quit pushing for what we want and trust that we have that magic, that we can create the life we want. So we trust that that step we took 2 weeks ago is the step that's going to create the next step in the journey towards what we want. And then eventually you get there and you've got what you want. So it's like trusting yourself, trusting the process, and trusting that you are a creator, because you are a magical creator.
I don't know about you, but that was one of the hardest things for me to grasp,
Yeah.
Angela, was surrender, was to trust.
Mm,
It took
so
me
hard.
a long time. I didn't even get it.
No.
It was like, what is this? I can't do that. Trying to hold on to the control was just something I've done my entire life.
And it's a rabbit hole. This whole surrender idea is a rabbit hole that,
It's tough.
like, for my soul, it's how deep can I surrender? How I keep going and let go?
Oh, I like that. That's
And
a great question. I love that you ask yourself that. How deep can I surrender? Beautiful.
well, it's, when I first published my books, I was like, oh gosh, I want these books in the hands of every kid, because I
Sure.
want every kid to thrive. And so I took all these classes, I did all these things to try and make the books popular. And it was only maybe even 2 months ago that I finally said, okay, soul, spirit, you know what needs to be done. I'm going to turn it all over to you.
Yeah.
That things have started unlocking. And so I had to reach that level of trust and surrender
Yeah.
in order to have the energies move.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing how that happens, how it works. Sometimes it's like instant. I mean, I've experienced both where it takes a while and sometimes it's like right away and I'm like, "Holy geez, look how fast that worked."
Yeah.
Um, and what was it like for you? You spoke about receiving messages from the angelic realm. I'm very curious, as many people would be. What is that like for you? When did you first notice it? How did you know? So, if you would love to enlighten us a little bit about your experience with that and the messages that you get for your books, that's incredible.
Thank you. It's really been a journey, just like everything else, because, um, at first I would just have impressions of, oh, here's something to write. And it would just kind of flow through me. And I would have this idea pop into my head, and then it would flow through my fingers onto the paper. And then my clairaudience started kicking in. And so I started hearing things. And it was really about trusting. Do I trust what I'm hearing? Who is it coming from? Where is it coming from?
Mm.
And do I trust the universe enough to say, hey, if I'm hearing it, I'm supposed to hear it? So, that brings to mind people who hear voices. There are in the collective, there's all these different energies. And so you might hear voices. And the question is, does it make you feel expansive? Or does it make you feel small, contracted, bad? If you feel
Oh, I like that.
expansive, it's a good thing. It's a good voice. It's something that you can pay attention to.
And benefit from.
Yeah.
And benefit others. I like the
Mhm.
way you said that. I haven't really thought about describing anything that way. I often say, "Does it make you feel light or heavy?" But I like the
That's the same thing, really.
yeah, it is. No, but I love when people bring to the show a different way of explaining things because it's gonna resonate differently with other people. It's gonna
True.
soak in differently with other people. If I say, "Does it feel heavy or light?" or "Does this bring you joy?" it doesn't mean that it's gonna really make a big impact to somebody when I say, "Does this make you feel expansive?" Our choice of words and the words that we have, it's all based on our experiences and our
Mhm.
belief systems and our values,
And
and
the
and
filters others handed us, and yeah,
yeah.
all of that.
So, I always like when there's many different ways of explaining something.
Mhm. Well, thank you. And I agree, because I think we are all like fractals of a diamond.
Mm.
And, there are many people who identify as light workers, and I'm one of them. I think you are too. And
Oh, thank you.
we're just here to try and shine light on the world. And
Yeah,
what we're doing is illuminating the possibilities
yeah.
for others to see or change their perspectives on how life is.
Mm, yeah.
And so it's yeah, I think that's I'm gonna leave that there.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you really focus on children and their
Mhm.
emotions. And so like you said, your big dream is to have them have this understanding, this wisdom of how to navigate emotions and feelings and to just kind of let it ride. Can you explain a little bit of how you address that? Just maybe one little insert in one of the
Yeah,
books.
yeah, I can. So, Emotions, we already talked their energy, and we talked about that their information. And this fear of feeling is something that is a generational after generational after generational societal thing that is handed down. But we are the generation, we are at the time now where we're going to stop that, because feelings are information. So when you are faced with a feeling that your first instinct is, hey, I don't want to feel this, I want to run from it, the best way for you to deal with it is to disconnect your mind from the story of your circumstances, because it is your mind and the story that prolongs your exposure to the feeling.
Mm.
So, with focused attention on the feeling, your focus is on the feeling. So, where is the feeling? How does it feel? Is it sharp? Is it intense? Is it soft? Is it black? Is it purple? What does it feel like? How would you describe it? And then you name the feeling. Wow, I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling angry. And then you give yourself permission to feel. Once you do that, once you give yourself the permission, the feeling will flow, and the biochemistry of a feeling is about 120 seconds. So if you think about the fear of feeling and how much resistance is put up against feeling and how it prolongs the feelings, when we finally accept our feelings and allow them to flow, they're gone.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. I love how you describe it. You really walk through the the process in detail.
And
And
so that I call it focused attention. That's my name for the process.
Mhm.
But it's really feel, name, allow. 3 words. That's all you need to
Oh,
remember.
that's excellent. It speaks to a lot of people, Angela, and so I like how you describe things.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, as we come to a close, I want to share a few of your photographs. And so they're just some of your uh, honors and awards, recognitions.
Yeah.
And this is a pretty big award, being
Yeah.
honored for this, the Honoring Excellence, the Mom's Choice Award. Do you want to talk a little bit about this and how it
Yeah.
came to you, how that made you feel?
So Mom's Choice is an organization that does pretty intensive vetting of products for children. And what they did is they gave me a gold medal for the first book of the Bella Santini Chronicles and the second book. And they give awards. Gold is their highest level.
Mhm.
And so to have two of the books have this award was really just, oh my gosh, my heart just burst. It was,
Yeah. Yeah, what an incredible feeling, and such an honor, like, I can only imagine. Yeah, like you said, my heart just burst. That's really cool. So, let's bring in a couple of the photos of the books. This is your first book.
yeah, Bella Santini in the Land of Everlasting Change. And it kind of lays the foundation for all the other books. But I think it's chapter 6 of this book, um, the cohort ends up in an alternative realm that is peopled by emotions, and they have to figure out how to get through the emotions. So while
Mm.
being an adventure story, it's also giving a really cohesive understanding of emotions.
I really like the bottom part here, in the land of everlasting change. That
Ah,
everlasting change piece, can you highlight that a little bit?
yeah, I was trying to, because she ends up in the fairy realm, and it's an alternative dimension. It's not, fairies can be here physically or as energy, but they live in a different dimension. And I don't know where I was doing research. What do you call the fairy realm? And somewhere there was a blog about the land of everlasting change. And I thought,
Oh.
that's it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool that you came up with that. I mean, I like it a lot, and it's fascinating how we come into things, and you, like me, I would have been researching it. I agree, looking up, like, how do you find this? But we're in this incredible time in history where information is at our fingertips, and
Mhm.
so it's fascinating that we get to do that. And so this is the second book.
Yeah. Bella Santini in the Troll War. This is the book where we talk about victim energy.
Ah, I
It.
can see this.
Yeah. And for parents who are worried about violence, my books are very PG, maybe even G. They're this war is won through the application of love.
Oh, I see that you had Jack Canfield write the forward for it. That's awesome. What a
Yeah.
feat, because I know that he's quite selective. So that's awesome. That's something to be very proud of as well.
Thank you. Yeah. That was another very seminal moment to receive his endorsement.
Yes. Yes. Wonderful. And this is an exciting cover. Can you tell us why?
Yeah, this is the third book. Princess Bella visits the dragon's lair. So that's a little hint into the storyline.
Mhm.
um, but we had done some split testing on covers and had originally I was going to use the inside illustration for the cover. And I was talking to someone and they said, you really need to have a compelling cover if you want people to buy your books. So just using the interior illustrations is not the best option.
Mm.
But for various reasons, I was cash poor. And so I ended up connecting with this guy who gave me a great deal. And he did this beautiful work on my book. His name is Daniel Rook, just an amazing guy. And so this particular cover kind of makes you want to pick up the book and, and get into the story.
Yeah, it is. I really liked it, and I was telling you earlier, I based your flyer for this, and pictured that book cover, and also kind of drew the colors in with it. It is. It's very, you want to pick it up. You're like, wow, what is this about? The fantasy aspect. And it doesn't mean that those aren't within the first covers that you had, but there is a sense, something that's more drawing, more magical. Maybe
This
it's the
this
heart
conveys
and the sparkles. I don't know. The dragon. I love dragons.
yeah, well, this whole book is about dragons, but this conveys the the heart that is at her heart, the light that is at her
Yeah.
heart.
That's what we're talking about, right? When we're
Exactly.
using
That's
that
it.
heart-centered energy to just heal others
Yeah,
and just
yeah.
love on them. So it is a very hard concept for many to understand, but it's there.
It is, and the more people who can embrace that concept, that love is really the answer to everything, then we will be already in heaven on earth.
Yeah.
I think about, on my Instagram feed, there's people who post about narcissists and, you know, getting away from narcissists. And that's a big talk in today's world. And what I say about my former husband was he used narcissistic tools, and I would never, ever label him in such a limitation as that he
Mm.
is a narcissist, because we're all so much more than what we think we are. And so, um, yeah, he had a toolbox that he went to and used, but he was a very injured individual, and he was in denial of his own injuries, emotional injuries, as was I.
Yeah. So,
You know?
Angela, you keep using terminology in past tense. You said he was. Now, are you telling us that he has made some great leaps, some changes? Is he a different person?
I can't, even guess at that. Though my son now lives with him, is renting the downstairs apartment. And my son has told me that his dad went on the Camino de Santiago last
Oh,
year.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
a healing journey, right? Has to
There
be,
you
I would hope.
go. Exactly. Though I don't speak to him, and it's not my choice, that is his. Um,
Yeah. But
it
you have allowed, you
I
know,
have allowed,
you've set
and
free. Yeah.
I send love. You know, he needed love more than anything else. And what I provided him was with love and judgment. And the
Right.
judgment was not what he needed.
Yeah.
But I wasn't awake enough to know at that
Mm. Ah, sometimes the best thing is to set it free and let it heal on its own.
time. Yeah.
So, that's beautiful, Angela. You have been such an incredible guest here on the show today. I want to make sure that everybody again knows where to find you, and your website is www.angelalegh.com. That is
Mhm.
AngelaLegh for those
No,
who
I.
are no I, Legh.
Yeah.
And for those of you that are tuning in on Apple Podcast or, listening in, many of you are going to be watching the replay. You can also find this information in the description below. Please, always, we accept comments. So if you have any questions during or after the show, we are here to answer them. So thank you for tuning in. Angela, again, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Is there anything else that you want to share with the audience today?
You know, we talked about a lot of different things, and a lot of the things we talked about, maybe things that you haven't heard before or you never were taught. And so I ask that you give yourself grace, because it's not your fault that you didn't know this. And when you beat yourself up about, oh, I should have done that, or I should have known this, or, I should have been different in that, then you're in resistance to yourself. So just breathe and give yourself grace and say, you know what, it's okay that I didn't know that, but now I know better. And now I'm going to be different from here on.
Mm, I love that. What is next for you, Angela? You have, I think you're maybe working on another book. I mean, this does continue,
Yes.
right?
I have book 4 is already written and illustrated, and probably going to go into the typesetting phase soon. But I'm almost done with book 5, and that
Wow.
is such an interesting, it's a delve into dark and light. And so
Yeah.
it's yeah.
Oh, that's so exciting. Wonderful. Well, people stay tuned. These are exciting books. I can't wait to hopefully maybe get a signed copy,
Oh,
Angela,
sure.
from you.
Yeah.
I would love that. And I'm excited even as an adult to read those stories because I know they're going to be very powerful. My girls, I can also entertain the idea with them. They're getting older now, but I don't think it's ever truly too late to read some of those exciting uh, fantasy stories, where we go into this incredible world. That's kind of like meditation, right? That's essentially what we do is we go into these other worlds of
Mhm.
thinking wonderful things and possibilities.
Yeah.
So thank you again for
I
being
can
a guest.
Thank you. And I can just say that people from 9 years old to 80 have
Yeah.
Loved the books. So
Yeah, they're incredible.
thank you.
My pleasure. All right. Goodbye, everyone, for now, and we will see you later.